Nacho!
To you.
So we have cheesecake and vanilla. So we'll cut it all up.
Ay, con Dios. What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So not much news since we last spoke, but I'm gonna get over that stuff. Then throw in with this video a little bit of a mock draft for the Chargers. I'm gonna be doing that a couple times a week before the draft is later at the end of this month. So we'll see how that goes. But to start off with, yes, USC football did get a consensus 5-star player and a kicker from the junior college ranks. His name is Garth White. I don't think this is going to affect the Australian guy coming in that already got his scholarship, excuse me, recently. But I don't know if he's a JUCO, he could be in college for 1 or 2 years. So I don't know how many years of eligibility he has left officially, but we'll see how this goes. And if he's considered a 5-star, he must be pretty darn good. So good thing he's on USC's roster. Then when it comes to USA soccer, they finally did get the news that they were in the World Cup and are in Group B, but sadly they are with one of the better teams to win the World Cup and with England, so that's going to be a tough matchup. But whether you lose to that game or not, as long as you beat another team in there in Iran, you should be fine. But they also have a mystery opponent because I guess they're going to have a European playoff at some point, and whatever standings that is in, another team will be dropped into there at some point. I don't know when. I think the World Cup is later this year, but I don't know because the seasons are different in Qatar, obviously from America, so maybe it's warmer over there when it's colder out here. So I guess that's why it is, but yeah, it's gonna be crazy either way. So good luck to those guys, whoever they end up having to play. But yes, let's get into the Chargers mock draft. So I wanted to start off with this one guy that I found this website. I think it's called Mock Draft Simulator, something like that. It's been one of the good ones that I found where you could just pick one team, choose how many rounds you want to do, how quickly it's going to go, and it will go based off of their own rankings. So some of these guys were available at some points when they might not be in real life, but I didn't make any trades or anything like that, so I just went with what they gave me. So for the first round pick for the Chargers, I went with Jordan Davis. He was one of the better players still left at that point and is getting talked about as one of the best players going into this draft, especially on the defensive line. It's a great pickup for them, but I don't know. I don't see him staying all the way to 17. He probably is going to get picked earlier, but yes, a defensive lineman from Georgia. Then they don't get to pick all the way until round 3, so it was quite a bit of a wait, even though it was on a speed thing. But yes, round 3, number 79. Ended up getting an offensive tackle out of Washington State and Abraham Lucas. He's considered one of the better guys going in the 2nd and 3rd round. Surprisingly, he lasted in this one all the way to the 3rd round, so I had to get him just because I know the Chargers are going into the draft as of right now without a true starting right tackle that we know of that all us fans really trust, because I don't really trust Trey Pipkins if they end up throwing him on there. They obviously let go of Brian Bulaga. You know, you got some other guys they could bring back and stuff, but still, I'm not fully convinced that they aren't gonna not get an offensive tackle in this draft, and why not get one of the good ones? So round 3, that's who they get. Then round 4, they pick number 123. I went with the tight end just because he was one of the better players left on the draft list right there of available players, and he is the highest rated guy in a position that they do need that was there. So his name is Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. He's a little bit more known as a blocking tight end, but he can score. He does score touchdowns, make some big plays in the passing game. So maybe being in the NFL, it will open up his playmaking ability. But if he's already a great blocker, that's already half the battle with some of these young guys coming into the NFL. So I think it's a pretty good pickup right there. Then round 5, number 160, they go with an interior offensive lineman, so a guard guy, and Cameron Jurgens. He's from Nebraska. I remember going through like the whole what did you call that, combine and stuff, that he was a guy they talked about a lot and did a lot of crazy stuff. He was one of the more physical guys out there and athletically. So to get a guy like that in the 5th round, which I was kind of surprised he was still there, but I had to pick him up once I saw him because he is definitely a good guy on the offensive line, in my opinion. And then around 6 at number 195, finally go cornerback, which is somewhat of a position of need, but every time it came available, there wasn't a good guy I saw. But this guy got a lot of news, which is why I was surprised he was still there on this draft. But Kalen Barnes, the cornerback from Baylor, I forget if he was one of the top guys who ran a 40-yard dash in this combine, or top 3 or top 2, something like that. So he has the speed, obviously. He's going to be great on kickoff and punt returns and stuff, but can you teach him to play the cornerback position 100% with that speed and athleticism to be a good backup guy for you, or maybe a future starter? So it's a lot of speed with that guy, so we'll see how that goes out. And then round 6, number 214 was kind of one of my more favorite players the past couple years. I think he does need some more coaching and stuff to be a full 100% complete safety. I do see him, because of his size, to be able to play more of like the linebacker or up close to the line of scrimmage type of deal. So I think that's why I picked him, because he's more versatile, in my opinion. But Smoke Monday, he has a great name, one of those better NFL names out there. But he did play and produce very well with Auburn every single time I watched the game for them the past couple years, which is why he was been one of my favorite guys. So that's why I picked him up. Luckily, he was still available. Now we're definitely loading up on the secondary for these guys. Then round 7, number 236, finally went with the running back, which they're going to need some running back depth because they still haven't re-signed Justin Jackson. But I went with the running back from Washington State, Max Borghi. They considered him to be, just because he's a white athletic guy compared to Christian McCaffrey, but he's not as good as Christian McCaffrey. Plus, I think he's a lot smaller. He's like 5'9". He can be a really good player. He was a really good player up there in Washington State. I remember having to play against him while I watched my USC Trojans against him, and he did do as well against them. But anytime other than that, he was a very dynamic player out there, scoring long touchdowns, and could be used in the passing game as well. So if he's going to be our backup, I don't mind that at all. I could see like a Darren Sproles type of thing, even like a baby version of Austin Eckler too, in my opinion. Then our second round 7 pick, number 254, went with the defensive end, Christopher Allen out of Alabama. It's not always a bad thing to get a pretty good, talented player from Alabama. You know, he was coached well. Obviously, if he's slipping all the way this far, it was either because the draft picking was messed up, or he might have some character issues, stuff like that off the field. But if you're going to get a talented guy like that with the coaching staff that Brandon Staley has put together, I think it'll be good news all around. So go with that. And then the very next pick, round 7, number 255, I had the Chargers going for a wide receiver, which they could use a pretty good backup 3rd or 4th guy option. But this guy is from a little bit of a smaller school, Central Michigan, but his name is Khalil Pimpleton. And he's like one of the crazier, dynamic, faster type of guys. He is a shorter fellow, so he will play a lot of the slot. Might give some handoffs out of the backfield, but overall with that type of speed, which is what the Chargers love and want for Justin Herbert right now, I think that's the type of guy you get. Plus, he was one of the better MAC type of players as well throughout this year. So went with him. Then their last pick, round 7, number 260, went with the linebacker, which is somewhat of a position of need, but every time I was picking, there wasn't a guy. Kind of went with just a guy, the name I saw that I remembered from college the past couple years, in Balin Spector from Clemson. While playing there, I know he's coached well from Brent Venables, and I know he's a really good athletic player. I always saw his name the past like 2 or 3 years starting for Clemson, so he is a pretty good, solid player. Not that bad of a get for round 7 this very late, and he's most likely going to be a special teams player and way backup linebacker for you. But yes, pretty good special teams player overall, in my opinion. So that was one of the first mock drafts I did with Jordan Davis. The big prize going in the first round for the Chargers. Not a bad overall get, in my opinion. I expect the Chargers with a lot of these late round, 7th round, and 6th round picks, I hope they package those up to get more into the 4th and 5th. Try to move up with those picks, like even a couple spots if you traded your 4th and 7th to go up higher into the 4th, or maybe late in the 3rd. It would help out a lot too, but you just never know with the Chargers. Sometimes they just stay put, take the best player available. That's what you can get, but we'll see. And to end this off with, sadly, Coach K's run at a chance of a national championship was ended on Saturday. It was against rival North Carolina. It just was a pretty crazy game overall. Yeah, Duke had a 3-point lead at half, but once I started watching the game in the second half, you could just totally tell that Duke was just kind of relying on what they've had the past couple of games where they're playing just as talented, if not a little bit more talented teams than them, but they were able to make plays at the end to get, that 2 or 3 point lead and keep it for a while. But they were also playing defense here. North Carolina made a lot of tough shots, a lot of crazy shots, especially from the 3-point line. And when you're exchanging 3s and 2s, it's tough to get back into the game, as Duke was making some of their shots at the end, but a lot of them were 2s, not a lot of 3s. A couple of costly penalties or fouls at the end on Duke as well to push that lead up to like 4, I think it was, very last attempt that they had. So they ended up losing by 4. Overall, it was a pretty great career. I started following Duke, I think it was 2006, 2007 year. J.J. Redick's last year, whenever that was. I just looked at Sports Illustrated and it had J.J. Redick or Adam Morrison of Gonzaga, and for some reason, I guess I watched both games separately of each guy, and I ended up choosing Duke because I liked the idea of their whole stadium and all the stuff that goes on with it, and liked just how J.J. Redick was as a player at the time. And so that's why I've been a Duke fan ever since. Obviously known Coach K ever since, so that's about say 2006, so 14 plus 2. So 16 years, pretty crazy, about half my life, which is pretty insane. Known him as a coach, and he's been around for 40 plus years. He's the most winningest coach in college basketball history. Definitely deserved it. 5 national championships, many Final Four appearances. I think he just passed John Wooden. I think we mentioned that the other day for most Final Four appearances. And wins-wise, I think a couple of coaches in the women's side that are pretty close to him that might pass him up. But overall, great historic career. I kind of wish, I'm not mad or upset that this was his final year. I just kind of wish he would have waited until maybe now to say it, instead of having this whole pressure this entire year, because whenever it came down to Duke's last home game, or his last home game for Duke against North Carolina, they ended up losing pretty bad. Then in the tournament, once the stakes got higher in the final game of the ACC tournament, they ended up falling short in that game as well. And obviously this game, with you're in the Final Four, all the questions being asked about your coach's final season and all this crap, it was just too much pressure for a lot of these young guys. He kept saying it's the youngest team he's ever had a coach, which is pretty crazy. He was able to get him this far, but overall, it was a great career. Definitely very excited for the next coach in waiting, John Shire. He's already got the gears going and the wheels turning, because he's got a lot of very talented guys coming in next season. Hoping that maybe 1 or 2 of these guys might come back. I know guys who are really affected by the loss, Mark Williams and Trevor Keels. They're the 2 guys that are going to get picked later in the draft, so I hope that they would come back just to not only improve their draft stock, but to also get revenge on North Carolina and all these other teams. And with the type of class that's coming in, it's going to be insane to have 2 of those guys come back, which is crazy. But definitely know Boncaro is leaving, AJ Griffin is leaving as well. He's considered like a top 10 guy, which is kind of crazy. I don't see it, just because whenever you see him dribble the ball, it's like he's going to lose, possession every single time. But yes, he's a very talented player as well, so he should get drafted. Jeremy Roach has a chance to maybe come back. He was very pivotal for them during the run in March Madness, which is weird. I don't understand why they didn't go to him earlier in the year to build that chemistry, but we'll see. So thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below, let me know what y'all think, have a great rest of your day. And yes, thank you, Coach K, for a great 16 years that I've at least known you for. So yes, go Duke. Bye.